A lot has changed since then. But after that meeting, we went back to the drawing board. I sat down with your councilman. I sat down with the councilman from the 4th district. I sat down with the councilman from the 6th district. I sat down with the councilman from the 3rd district. And we came up with a proposal where we would have one citywide pool, and that would be located in North Hammond at Pulaski Park. And we would have the other 3 parks that contain pools. I would do something that was equal to or better than what the pool was. And since that time, I've reached an agreement in the 4th district with Councilman of the 4th district, Bill Emerson, and his park is set to be open in October, last I remember. Is that still on track, Mark?
Late October.
Late October. So that project, it's the smallest, geographically, it's the smallest park, so it went lightning fast. We did a lot of good work on that project. It's moving, it's under construction right now, Edison Park. Hessel Park was the next on the list that went. That was a bigger geographical park. Hessel Park got a lot of help from the 5th district councilman, which is nice. Dave Warple, even though that park's not in his district, he helped Councilman Rakos. We came up with a proposal, and that park is under construction as we speak. Not moving as fast as Edison Park. Mark, deadline?
That's gonna be a springtime opening.
Springtime
Early
opening.
spring.
That one's gonna have a splash pad, which is nice. It used to have a pool that was fairly active. It's gonna be converted into a splash pad. 3rd district, that project is currently in demolition and starting to get underway right now. It's moving slower than the other projects, but it is moving along. We anticipate part of it being open. That's MLK Park, named after Dr. King. The part that's a tribute to Dr. King has a deadline on it, imposed by the mayor. I want that open by Dr. King's birthday. When we kick off the walk, I want to kick off the walk in the new memorial park that we're putting together for Dr. King. Funny thing about MLK Park, it had really nothing about Dr. King in the entire park. There was no memorial, there was no inspirational quotes, nothing. Plaque was put in there, I think, in 2006 by the councilman. But literally, it was a small little plaque in a big park that's named after Dr. King. Well, that project is underway now as we speak. So that leaves Pulaski Park, where we are right now. And I wanted to talk to you guys about a proposal we had. Councilman Mark and I have been in a lot of discussions, as well as the park department personnel. We're working in this case with American Structure Point. Mr. John Kennedy, where are you, John? Where are you, John? Hey, John, how's it going? Good. John, by the way, interestingly enough, Structure Point's done a lot of business over the years with the city of Hammond. This building that we're standing in right now was designed and built by Structure Point, right, John?
It was.
Yeah, still standing, so we're, you passed that test.
Through that big storm that one night.
There was a funny story. And I know we got a lot to talk about, but this is a funny story. It was right after this building opened. We were at the restaurant next door. And there is one of those hellacious storms going through Rogersdale, bearing right down on us, right? And tornado warnings are going out. People are scurrying. They're going into the basement. And we're up on the top, and they're like, Mayor, and then John was there. And they're like, Mayor, you guys better get in the basement. I said, this is a brand new building. We better not have to go in the basement. And we stuck the whole thing out on the top floor, and everything worked just fine. So Structure Point, I appreciate you being out here as well. Why don't we go ahead? You have a video, right, John?
We have a flyover.
A flyover? You mind, who's running this thing? Sharon, or is it IT, or is it you?
I'll do it.
All right, this is when IT, this is why Chris Campbell makes the big bucks for moments like this, so. You ready to go on this, right, Chris? There's a lot of people watching you.
I have an excellent staff, so
Nothing could possibly go wrong right now.
Just be careful at the end of the video. We show you going down the slide. You get very,
This shows
we
me.
show like going down the slide.
Who?
You get dizzy.
Oh, you showed like, as though we were going down the slide.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. That's cool. Let's check it out. So look around on your monitors. It should come up any second now. Okay. The code's gonna dim the lights. That's a fast flyover. So this is a. Okay, so this is coming from basically south to north, right?
Correct.
Right. So that's like
So what you see there is a zero entry area for
Zero
ADA and little kids accessibility. We enlarged the pool deck from what was currently at the Pulaski Park pool. There you see the lap lanes that can be converted into a volleyball area. And then of course you got the wow factor of the two slides, or two different slides. And basketball facilities were added so the kids could play. And what we tried to do is segment the activities from teenagers to little kids. And then here you got like a little playground area. We got a bucket, little slide for the younger kids from like the 1 to 6 year age in that area.
And then that's like for the pool.
And that is not my figure. That is not my asset.
It looks like a residence for sure. This is really fancy. All right, thanks, John. I want to point out that this is a proposal and we're in listening mode. Okay? Now, I wanted to make that very clear. We have 2/3 of the money set aside for this project right now, waiting to go. And we have ways where we can get the other 1/3, but we have to figure out what the other 1/3 is going to consist of. So basically, we're in listening mode. What I like about it personally, if there's going to be one pool in Hammond, I wanted a pool that's going to compete with Munster and get people to go to it. We don't want to have a pool open where we're spending money on heating it, chemicals, staffing it, and nobody goes there when it's 85 degrees out. That makes no sense. So we want to do something that's going to compete well with Munster, which is the crown jewel pool in the area. And we want something that's going to, you know, like I said, it's going to have a population there. So the zero depth is, if we don't have zero depth like that, which is basically, you have to think about it from the ADA perspective, if you're in a wheelchair, you could roll in on the zero depth, roll into the pool. If we didn't do something like that, you would have to have the chair on the side for ADA. Right now, if you'll remember, we passed a bond, a park improvement bond through the Hammond City Council and signed by the mayor about 6 or 7 months ago that was specifically set aside for the 4 parks that were going to lose pools. Each of those projects is underway. The first district's money is sitting there waiting for basically a final approval. And Councilman is intimately involved in this, as is the Hammond Park Department, and we want to see what you have to think. So, who wants to go swim in there?
And Tom, if I can give some,
Sure.
I'm the least technical in our company.
Could we? Yeah.
Give you some technical points. So you got the 2 slides.
So if you can see up here.
So the 2 slides you have.
How tall are
Give
those,
some
John?
focal points. So you have the 2 slides.
Now think, like from point of view perspective, this is Sheffield in the background. Or,
Correct.
Yeah.
So
And then
with these
that's the
slides.
skateboard park right there.
Yes.
Okay.
So for ADA and for young kids, it is now standard practice to do a zero entry. So you have a at-grade surface entry point. With the 2 slides, they wanted a wow factor. The mayor and the councilman, they go, we want something that wows the community. But the slide manufacturers require, for safety purposes, a 3 feet 6 inch depth. So now you got 2 set points. You got 3 feet 6 inches, and you got 0, and so you got to meet that grade with the appropriate slope. But now we want to have a multifamily. We want to get the most use out of it, the city said. We got the lap lanes, which are 25 yards, 5 feet. Usually you only need 3/6, but if you're a bigger gentleman like myself, you need a little bit of extra space to do that flip turn. So,
You do flip turns?
I haven't in a while, but I float really well. So that's 5 feet down at this end, and it comes down to 4, but they wanted to have other activities. So if you got lap lanes maybe in the morning for the adults or in the evenings, but you have more kids in the mid-afternoon, you could put up a volleyball net. The same with here. They wanted some more activities for the teenager kids, maybe do some basketball. So it's a multi-use facility that we tried to make for everybody, for every age group. So you could, in the afternoon, you're gonna separate the adults on this end with the lap. If you don't put the lap lanes in, you got areas where they could float on or just stand and relax on the side. So we try to make it multifaceted for multi-demographic groups and age groups, so.
Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. The thing, my signature on this is the basketball courts. I have a pool in my house, and I have disinterested teenagers. You know, you work hard to keep your pool nice and clean and warm, and nobody's using it. I put in one of those poolside basketball hoops, and I tell you, every kid in the neighborhood wanted to come over to my pool. In fact, and they play so much that it actually wore the paint out around the basketball hoop. You can literally see the bottom of my pool. Little additions like that cost an extra $150, $200, and literally they'll bring kids out there just to jump in the pool and play basketball over there. So, like Mr. Kennedy said, we try to do something for everybody in this. We have to do what's ADA compliant. We have areas where the little kids could go. We have little areas where the adults could go. We have areas where the teens could hang out. I think the slides are a great addition. I personally think it would compete well with Munster. I think that if you're in Whiting, Robertsdale, North Hammond, Central Hammond, that it makes just as much sense to go to this pool as it would be to go to Munster, and probably a lot cheaper, because I heard going to the Munster pool is not very cheap, so. Anyway, any questions about this? Because we have a few topics to talk about.
Lady here on the right.
Right, yeah, okay, well,
Hi, Mayor.
hey,
How you doing tonight?
I've been listening to this too.
Good to see you too. As you know, I walked the petition around the neighborhood and had a lot of conversations with folks around. And this does look beautiful. However, I was hoping to see more swim lanes and hoping that maybe, since it will be one of the few pools in the city, that we could attract the swim teams for swim time and things like that. And from what I've heard, folks are really interested in having swim lessons for their kids. This is how we can actually build the farm team then for the schools. Start them out early, get them used to the water, get them used to lane swimming, things like that. In our current pool, I don't know what it would take to maybe revamp some of that and add some of these things rather than starting over from scratch. That would be more fiscally responsible, but I do know that that was a couple of big topics where people really wanted to make sure that it was utilized for kids to actually learn how to swim, and like I said, to have more pool time for kids who are already in on swim teams.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
thank you.
Any other questions,
Got one.
comments? Yeah,
I've got one pool there.
sure.
Sorry, I had to get turned back on there. The pool, people love the idea. I live in the area and I petitioned to keep the pool. But it has to be accessible to as many people as possible. Would it be better to build it by Wolf Lake or Dowling Park?
Okay, appreciate it. Any other questions about the pool?
Mayor, I just want to point out that video that was shown here is on GoHammond.tv on the website. So if anyone's here, or has friends that didn't see it or want to see it again, it is on that website that we have for the city.
Thanks, Mark. GoHammond.tv, which is where you can watch replays of this video. If you go home tonight, you're wide awake, this will put you to sleep, I promise. So, yes, ma'am, hi.
I'd like to know if they're gonna improve the parking, because that should attract a lot of people, and there's not a whole lot of parking at that park.
Thank you, I appreciate it. That's a good point. Let me ask by a show of hands. Who thinks that we're headed in the right direction with this pool, if you don't mind? By a show of hands. We'll do. Okay. Who thinks we're headed in the wrong direction? By a show of hands. Okay, you, for sure. Okay. Who thinks we shouldn't have a pool at all, if you don't mind? By a show of hands. Okay. No offense. That's where I started. I'm still consistent. I don't think we should have pools because people don't go there anymore, in my opinion. But I'm willing to work with you, and I promised the councilman I'd work with you guys on this, and that's what we're doing. So, all right. Do we have any other questions on this? Because do we, John? Is there like comment cards or anything out there people could fill out? Because we heard a comment that there's not enough swim lanes, that we shouldn't do anything, and basically just improve what we have. Heard a comment, maybe the location is a poor location, basically. I'm missing another comment. Rosemary. Parking, thank you. Parking.
Currently, the proposal doesn't have any improvements with parking.
Okay, but then again, we just did the parking lot within the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, a big addition. Yeah, Rosemary.
Hi, Mayor Tom. This might be answered by John Kennedy.
How much proportionally is the kids section, the 3-footer, with the slides and all the goodies, as opposed to the lane section? Would it be like 3/4 for the kids to 1/4 for the?
I don't know the exact dimension for the kids. For the lap lanes, it is 25 yards in length. And the lap lanes individually are probably anywhere total about 18 feet wide. So 6 to 7 feet, 6 to 7 feet wide, the lap lanes themselves. So that dimension. For the kids, I don't know. But what I could tell you, the previous Pulaski Park had about 6,700 square feet of water surface. This one has 1,000 square feet more of water surface. So you're getting more water surface on this pool. you're also getting about another 3,500 square feet of extra deck. And I know a lot of people say, why put a deck by a pool? Let's have more pool surface. But if you've ever been to a pool, one of the first things the parents do is they want to run and get a table or some chairs because they can relax in between. But unfortunately, Rosemary, I don't know the exact dimension of the kids' area.
But John, that's one thing we didn't really talk about. I like that, the permanent shading. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
I've been to places that has that kind of stuff. And that's usually where I try to park it personally, because being in direct sun for a long period of time is not good.
And I wish I could take this idea, I think it was Mark Hines' idea, but on the backside of the slide, there's some grassy area with like a berm,
Mm-hmm.
that we're gonna push back the fence so you could have some lawn singing. So Mark, I give you credit for that, because that's what I was missing.
John, one thing we didn't wanna do is we already have a splash pad at Wolf Lake. We didn't wanna replicate that. We wanted to kind of expand a different usage. We also have the Pulaski Park Senior Center, and we were looking to have, senior days or senior afternoons where we can actually utilize the pool for the seniors. So that's basically what we were looking at. Thank you.
Yeah, you could probably do the water aerobics for seniors in that, like by the basketball area, and you have 3 feet 6 inches, or you can do it in the lap lanes. You just take the lap lane lines down, and you have that whole area separate to do whatever you might want to do for seniors.
I did get a lot of feedback when this first was announced or shared as this proposal that we have, and of course the entire facility would be for all ages. It's not just kids in one area or just adults in another area. So there are people who are fearful of going in deeper water. They only may want it ankle deep, knee deep. The zero depth entrance allows for that in that section of the pool. Going in there with a younger toddler, it allows you to get a little bit wetter than what is up at Wolf Lake at the splash pad, where you're just getting wet. There's no standing water at all. So it does have some other amenities there.
The thing about the splash pad is important to point out is those are ticketed entry. It's not every other location we're doing a splash pad, which would be Hessler Park, MLK Park, those other two locations. They're on demand. You walk up, you get wet, and you're done. Or you can stay there and get wet, or you can watch your kids run around and get wet. But like the Wolf Lake splash pad is you pay to get in when there's ships, right?
Yes.
So it's a lot different, and quite frankly, you do pretty well there, right? Probably to our pool's detriment, not just Pulaski, all the pool's detriment. A lot of the kids go right by the pool and they go straight to the splash pad, and they pay to get in there. So we're competing against the splash pad too. And you can see it in your numbers. I mean, the numbers have gotten bigger each year at the splash pad, right? So.
And just to reiterate, I know those numbers off the top of my head, Mayor. The last time that the splash pad was open and the pools were open, the splash pad one site had twice as many visitors as all 4 pools combined. Just as
Twice as many visitors as all 4 pools combined. And you know how much all 4 pools combined cost every year? How much is that, Mark?
We were over $2 million to operate those pools. At $2 million deficit to operate the pools.
Over a period of time, right?
Yes.
But like what, 150 grand a year?
We were, the last year that we expended, it was $202,582. And we were at a deficit for the full year, yes.
And like, this is my argument, and we've given this argument 3 times already. Our kids get out of school June 8th, and they're back in school August 10th. And August 10th through Labor Day is beautiful prime swimming weather. And we have which is ridiculous. Our kids shouldn't go back to school until after Labor Day. I don't understand why we do it this way. But Mylan, where's most of your manpower for like the beaches, for lifeguards, and for pools if you had demand pools? Where's most of your manpower coming from?
College kids and high school kids.
College kids in high school. What's the biggest challenge? Like, if we just found Johnny down the street and said, Johnny, want to be a lifeguard? Is Johnny going to make it? I can speak from first-hand experience because my son went through this.
Yeah, he had to work hard to get to be a lifeguard.
Is that Tommy?
Tommy worked
Tommy was a
hard.
good swimmer.
Yeah.
And Tommy was in great shape and barely passed the test.
He worked
And he's
hard.
straight A student. So Mylan may know 100 kids, only 4 of those kids can pass the lifeguard qualifications. So when Mylan's lucky enough to fill the beach, which is all we have to worry about right now, you don't have to have a lifeguard at the splash pad, do you?
No, we do not.
Right, because there's no standing water.
Right.
But at the beach, Mylan has a staff, and then when these kids go back to school or go on family vacation,
Sometimes we're down to just the Marina Beach, just because of staff.
So we have a lot of challenges. This is a challenging issue. That's why, in my perspective, if we're going to build something, for me to feel good about spending taxpayer money on a project like this, I want it to be nice. I want it to be like a family drives by and they say, I'm gonna take my kids there. Because I think that we'll be successful. We're not gonna hemorrhage money if we do that. My fear is if we build a hole in the ground, like we have now, we're gonna be facing $50,000, $60,000 deficits every year. And I don't wanna get into that personally, so does anybody else have any comment or question on this? Yeah. Hi.
I have a question. I like this little slide idea, but isn't that a little bit too ambitious? How much staff are you gonna have to keep these kids? I mean, and how about your liability insurance? I mean,
Okay.
it's a cute little thing, but I mean, is it too ambitious?
Have you been to Munster Bowl? It's very similar to what they do in Munster. And they have lines of people waiting to get in the Munster Bowl. But Mark, could you talk a little bit about the
Yeah,
question?
we actually looked into liability. The liability won't, as a self-insured department, it actually doesn't go up quite a bit for us based upon this. The staffing requirements are lifeguards that we would have to have at a pool anyway. They'd be different stationed around there. You might see them a little bit in these newer pools. You see them where they're not stationary in a chair in old-fashioned pools where they're actually walking with their flotation belt around and kind of constantly scanning the areas that they're responsible for. If anyone here has gone to different resorts, types of Wisconsin Dells has 100 of them up there. This is very similar. This is just a miniature version of that. This is almost a miniature version of Deep River Water Park that the county operates. So I think that it's something that it really does provide the amenities and the attractions that we didn't have in the current pool right now. And I think that's one of the things that kids and younger adults have brought to us, that, at least to myself, as far as, hey, why should I go there and get wet? I want that attraction. So I think that that's something that's important to offer those additional attractions to bring people out to the pool, especially when you go there with your family. We want to encourage family recreation. You show up with younger kids. You have older ones. They're going to want something that's challenging, that's attractive, to go play basketball, play volleyball, go down the slides. You may have the older people who want to, go swim laps that are starting to be more health conscious and fit conscious. While you may still have a younger baby or even a grandchild with you who they may be over in the little zero depth area that does allow a wheelchair to go into the water, where the bubblers that you see there's about 6 of them at the very early on age or entrance point, where it bubbles up in 2-3 feet into the air there, actually probably 1 or 2 feet into the air there, before you get into the area that has the little miniature little, as I like to call it, a playground piece, the little structure there with slides coming off it. So you have that for the younger ages, and then you do get to the other areas of the pool that have that. I think another thing just to point out in this, the footprint of this pool, if you're familiar with the park, it really doesn't do, we have the picture there that you see that the flyers show, the pathway that's there would not change. The pathway would be unaffected by this. This new footprint is in that same footprint where the existing pool is. On the east, it would be the pathway would be bordered by. On the north, the pathway. On the west, it would be the existing parking lot. And then the south, the pool house would get remodeled, but would be reused for this facility.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We have more questions. We wait for the microphone. Somebody get George. Hey, George.
What would happen if what you say, or what you fear happens, that it isn't utilized as it should be, or whatever the case may be? What is Hammond stuck with? What are you stuck with? What happens if you've got a brand new facility underutilized?
I'm going to be honest with you. I've done 3 days across the city now. This is my fourth. Okay. Everywhere we've unveiled a proposal, it was met very enthusiastically, and quite frankly, like thousands and thousands of shares and likes, and then a lot of feedback, and then we fine-tuned what we had and moved forward. In this case, it doesn't seem like it's being met well, and which means that I'm not going to waste $2 million on a project you don't want, and we're sort of stuck where we've been.
So what would happen if we does go through and it's underutilized?
That's why I want to be very careful, so that if it does go through, it's not underutilized.
Well,
That's a very good question. That's why I'm being careful, and that's why we're not rushing into anything.
are the people that are for it, is it a case of tail wagging the dog, I mean, or is it, or does the, or
No,
the
Hammond-
section of?
Make no mistake, I mean, I was elected mayor, and my job is to run the park department, but my job is also to listen to the residents and work with the council people and do what I think is best at the end of the day, and that's what I'm trying to do. And it was easy in the other 3 locations. This one's a little bit more difficult. Quite frankly, I took a lot of crap to move the pool to North Hammond, a lot. So I'm a little discouraged, I'll be honest with you. Because there was other parts of the city that badly wanted the pool, badly. So we said, I think it makes the most sense to go to North Hammond for a lot of reasons. And, you know, I don't want a hole in the ground personally. I think it's a waste of money. And if you don't want this, if I don't want that, we're stuck. And I'll stand up here and be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie. I just think if we redo what we did, it's gonna give us the same results we got already, which is $50,000, $60,000 a year losses just on that pool. Forever. Forever. Every year you gotta put staff out there, every year you gotta put chemicals there, you gotta heat it, and people, in my opinion, won't go to it. And if we stand in here and say swim teams and all this, it's gonna work, it didn't work before. Yeah,
Can it be privatized?
no. We tried that before too. Hammond Indoor Pool. It was same kind of decision was going on. It was a city pool also. We made the decision to shut it down. This is when I first became mayor. And then a group came along. They were well-meaning. We wanted to make it a private pool, not for profit. And we said, sure, no problem. And we gave them the pool. We gave them everything. And within 3 years, it folded up. It was completely unsuccessful. And that was an indoor pool. Year round, we could have gone to that one. It got nowhere. Pools don't make money. They're like city buses. They don't make money. These are cost-saving decisions. Maybe I'm being dumb by being so honest, but I'm just trying to be honest about what's going on and why we made the decisions we did. And think about that pool was built, Mark, 1954.
1954.
Think about 1954. There's a lot of people in this room that can tell me a heck of a lot better because I wasn't there. But let's think about 1954. We didn't have video game systems that kids sit for hours in front of. We didn't have air conditioning in a lot of homes in a lot of cases. You didn't have backyard pools that you could inflate and take down 2 days later. You didn't have above ground pools. Most people didn't have in-ground pools. Your option when it got hot out was, I'm not going to sit inside and sweat. I'm going to go to the pool. And that was in 1954. And a lot of things have changed since then. Like Woodmore Mall was built in, the 70s? And it's already up and shut down because we changed the way we shop in that period of time. 1954 was 70 years ago. Right? It's getting close, 65 years ago. 64. Questions? Yes, sir. Sorry, we didn't mean to skip you.
You're wanting to make this a family-oriented facility.
Yes,
Two
sir.
questions. How are you gonna be able to pay? Can you pay there?
That's a
instead
good
of
question.
Pay at the Civic
I
Center?
appreciate
Or-
you asking that.
And are you going to have like refreshments since you wanna have a family-oriented?
Great question. Mark, could you?
Yeah.
There was, rightfully so, from a lot of pro pool people pointed out within the last year or two because it was a nightmare at the end. We weren't making any money, and then, we started changing the way we did business, and it made it harder actually to swim. But Mark, could you please address both of those?
Yeah, and I'm even operations, I would expect as a new facility like this, we'd be open 7 days a week and we would be taking admission there on site. I know some decisions were made previously that did not do that had somewhere else to go for passes. We may still have that available for season passes and things like that, but it definitely there would be daily admission where you could get in on the day of the pool itself as well.
Thanks, Mark.
What about refreshments?
Refreshments, we would probably look to do that in the remodeled bathhouse, but we'd have to see about the footprint that we have available there. Right now, the current bathhouse had an area that had availability for 3 different vending machines there. I think at a minimum, we would look to have vending machines. But if we have the capabilities of fitting that into the footprint of the bathhouse, I think we would look to do that. We've done that at Riverside Park in our operations right now. We're operating a concession stand there as well as at Dowling Park. And we're looking to try to get into that across the city a little bit more and more where we have those opportunities, so.
Thanks. All right. Yes.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of reflecting back on my childhood. Many days we went to the pool, but we rode our bikes. I lock their bikes up because
Fair question.
it needs it.
Yeah, you're right. That's not right, but.
And that's, we definitely would do that. We have that opportunity with the, bike trail around the, park there. We would wanna make sure that we have that capabilities, because we wanna encourage that. We wanna encourage people. I mean, we're making, Hammond as a whole is becoming such a bike-friendly city. We wanna encourage that across the city in many places. That's
That's one of the main routes north to south too, so if I.
Right, and I may overstep my bounds here. There's communities across the city that are getting into the rental bikes as well,
Yeah.
the Divvies of the world and things like that. The city's definitely been approached, by various companies, I think, that are interested to come to our area.
Yep, thanks. Okay. I imagine we have more questions than just the pool, so if nobody has any problem with it, I'm gonna start wrapping this up and moving forward. Does anybody have any last second questions about the pool they wanna throw out there? Yes, ma'am. Can somebody get, yeah, thanks.
It's wonderful to me.
Thank you.
When did you plan to open it?
We got some work to do. I mean, once we reach an agreement, it's easy, but that's the hard part, and that's the part that takes the most. And when we did MLK, we had a lot of negotiations going back and forth, and we finally moved forward. And you know, we got to make sure that they're buying from the community. And I've had situations where I thought it was a great idea in other parts of the city, where I thought what we were doing was a great idea, and I didn't get enough enthusiasm from the community, and we just spiked it because I don't want to spend money if I think it's a good idea and nobody else thinks it's a good idea. Because we go back to the gentleman's question earlier, that are we going to build something that nobody wants and it just sits there unused? That's the worst thing we could do. So, but I appreciate your support, man. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank goodness. All right, we're done with the pools. Let's go ahead and talk about something else.
Okay, well, you're
Let's talk about code enforcement issues or something.
I got one right here, man.
Thanks, all right. Let's get your microphone.
Could you or your staff give us an update on vacant property located along the Wolf Lake Bike Trail? The property had a fire last year and remains a mess. Included are some pictures. Will this be cleaned up? Looks like multiple properties. Roosevelt Drive.
Okay.
In Caroline.
It was on demolition.
I didn't know it burned down.
It was a private demo. They did the demolition themselves. They left the foundation. We put it back on the list.
Have a couple suspects.
Put it back on the list. It's on the demolition list. It's active. As soon as we get through all the bidding and everything, we'll bring the rest of it down. They've been cited for not taking out the rest of that foundation.
Gotcha.
Also.
Okay, that's
There's also the house next to it, which would be, I think, 1933 Caroline. It was the same owner. That house is vacant. It did get some damage from the fire. That house is on the demo list. A lot of people, if you see, a lot of the brush that's still up and high, it's because of the foundation that's still left there. So we did have one of our vendors cut as much as they could for the time being until the rest of the structure that's there is eliminated. And at that point, we can clear out that parcel totally of any high weeds or brush.
Thanks, honey. All right. And I'd like to point out to that, whoever wrote that question, we get copies of that, so you're going to give that to code enforcement, right, Donna?
Yes, sir.
But, so filling out the paperwork here is good because there's a paper trail that follows it, but that's the kind of thing that could be fired off through Hammond 311 very easily also for instantaneous. So, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I've heard people say that. I totally get it when I'm in my shoes. For the best of reasons, somebody come up to me and tell me there's a problem in the community, and I'll be like, yes, okay, I'm gonna remember that when I get back to the office. When I get back to the office and there's 15 things waiting for me and I forget all about my conversation with the constituent, remind us. You're not bugging us. Remind us. Mayor, remember you told me about this? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot about that. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, so stay on it, stay vigilant. Things get done. All right, let's do another one.
Sir, lead issues in the water, is Hammond working on this, or what is the resolution for this concerning schools?
Okay, first off, if any of you are drinking water at the table right now, it came from the Hammond water system, piped through the Lost Marsh clubhouse, and I guarantee you the water you're drinking is lead free, because it's a new building, Buildings built before 1985, I believe, Mark, is that true? 86, were built with lead service lines, like my house, lead service lines. I don't think they've been changed. But what happens is, inside of my lead service line in my house, there's a little film that is part of the chemicals that we put into our water, develops a film on the inside of that lead service line that keeps us safe. It's a microscopic film. And as long as that film is there, you'll never have lead pollution in your line, even though you have a lead line, like my house, where I drink tons of water, okay? What happened in Flint? Because they had that microscopic film in there also. But what happened in Flint is they changed water supply. They went from lake water to river water. I think they went to I want to say the Flint River.
Yes.
And when they pulled from the Flint River, the composition of the water was a lot more acidic, and it ate through that microscopic film. And when it does that, it starts eating the lead, and the lead starts getting into the water. Hammond has some of the cleanest water in the United States of America. We get it from about a mile deep and about 100 feet under Lake Michigan. It's clean as heck. We pull it in every day. We check it according to state records. Our water's clean. I drink tons of tap water. This is Hammond water. We sell it to Munster. They put it through probably one more filter, and they put it into a blue bottle, and they sell it to us for $2 each. This is Hammond water. Aquafina, bottled right down the street in Munster. So, I'm in Poland with my wife, visiting my Polish family. I have a whole family in Poland. I just met them all. Wonderful country, and I know a lot of you probably been there. And I get emails about what's going on at the school city. So my first instinct was, I want a press release out right now. First off, I called water department. We tested our water, right? Yeah. Anything changed? Nothing. So put a press release out right now. I don't want to alarm the public and have all of us think there's lead in our water. It's not. It's particular to these buildings. So if you came up to me as a constituent and said, Mayor Tom, I have an old house, yeah, I just did a lead test in my house and there's lead in my water. What are you going to do about it? I would say, I'm really sorry to hear that, ma'am or sir. I can't do anything about it. That's your house. We give you clean water. It goes through your plumbing, and when it comes out of your tap, it's dirty. It's the house's problem. If I helped you in your house, I'd be just like the guys in East Chicago that went to prison, and I'm not going to prison. So I would tell you nicely, there's nothing we can do about it. It's private property. We give you clean water. It gets dirty in your plumbing system. You got to fix your plumbing system. It's your house. There's not much difference between what's going on in the schools and the situation I just gave you. These schools that we're talking about were built, and one of them was built in 1919. And from what I understand, when they tested the water, it was like the first, you ever go on vacation for a week or two, and then you come back and you turn the water on, and it goes, and then it like spits out dirty water, and then it's clean again? They tested the water like in the middle of the summer, when nobody was using it. So like the first kick of water that comes out, I don't know if that's what they use, but I don't know if that's clean or dirty or not, but so I got asked a lot of questions about this, and I tell you, I'm the mayor. I got tons of issues on my plate at all times. Pools, I got police matters, fire matters, crime, we got taxes, we got budgets, and then people are like, what are you gonna do about the schools? We would elect 5 members to our school board in Hammond. In fact, 3 of them are up for election in November, all right, and those 5 people hire somebody we call a superintendent. The superintendent is the mayor of the schools, Dr. Watkins. I'm not trying to duck my responsibility. If you guys want the mayor to be in charge of schools, we got to talk to Indianapolis, but I am not in charge of schools. They've made it very clear to me they've never wanted my help before, and in a situation like this, of course, I'm concerned. And from what I understand, they shut down the fountains, but this is something they need to take care of. They have a budget, they take millions of dollars every year from us, they could use part of that money to fix the lead service lines, and the problem goes away. But I've been asked, and a lot of people are criticizing me, man, Mayor, you're a horrible mayor, you don't care about kids. Okay, I do care about kids. I have 4 kids. Well, they're not kids anymore, they're adults, but this is a situation that's just like if you had a problem in your house. I'd feel bad. Of course, we wanted to see you, rectify the problem, but I can't help you directly. That would be illegal. So, anybody want to talk about this issue? School city lead issue? I couldn't even tell you. I read the press release when everybody else did. So it's not like they even reached out and said, hey, Mayor, we got lead in our school water. They didn't even really, I read the paper just like you did. So I get asked questions, I'm like, I have no idea. I read the Times just like everybody else. So, anybody? All right. Oh, how about Mark first off? Mark is what is the second in charge of sanitary? other day, I thought it sounded good.
That's something better than assistant operator.
Superintendent of the Hammond Water Department, Mark McLaughlin's here. Mark, can you add a little bit that I didn't add?
Yes, and often, I believe with the schools, it'll probably be determined that the lead is coming from the fixtures in the building. It's because not every faucet, not every drinking fountain had lead. What happens, there's lead solder in fixtures themselves. It was banned until '86, I believe. So it's sometimes not even that big of an issue, replacing faucets and drinking fountains. And see what that does. There was a meeting on Monday, the school board. They brought in an industrial hygienist and from Washington, a nationally recognized hygienist, who said the most effective way to deal with it is just education. Explain to the parents and the kids, run the water, but mainly the lead is probably coming from the dust in the homes, the lead-based paint. So it's keeping things clean and keeping kids from small toddlers from putting their hands in their mouth and their hands are dirty.
Hey Mark, I know the school city's had a few community meetings since this has gone down. I know you guys are in attendance at all those meetings and answering questions to the public and stuff like that. So it's not, right?
Yeah, there was a meeting just about the lead issue on Monday.
Yeah. And you guys are there.
Yes.
But like, we're there, because we're not ignoring, this is like, hey, this is your problem. We're there to remind people, the water we're drinking is clean water. We sympathize with what's going on, but, I hope schools fix it too.
We test the water coming into the plant and going out of the plant to you. And there's no lead in it coming in, there's no lead in it coming out of the plant.
Attorney Cantar, could you help a little bit on this, just to provide some perspective? I know I probably didn't.
Oh, I think you pretty much nailed it.
Good.
Well, first of all, the school city and the civil city are two separate entities. The civil city's responsibility is to sell clean water to the school city. And I'm sure the school city is probably going to have the water retested. This was something that they had tested right during the summer when the fixtures hadn't been run. And I'm sure if they've been flushed or replaced, they'll probably get a different result. And I'm sure we're gonna hear back about it.
And what's funny? I was thinking about this when I was making coffee today in City Hall. I'm dumping water from the faucet into my coffee, and then I dump it into the coffee, and I'm like, this building was built a long time ago. I wonder if we have lead service lines in City Hall. We just never tested it. We may. And I've been drinking more of the water than anybody, I'm sure, but, we have a lot of old buildings, and so.
It's not that difficult. You can go to Amazon or you can go to the hardware store, you can go to Home Depot, and you can buy a little lead test kit. It kind of looks, they're like little strips, like pH strips, and you just run it under the tap, and it's like $20.
Oh, yeah. I have those for my pool.
Yeah, it's like $20 for a bottle of 50 of them. It's so anybody who is concerned could go to Home Depot or Ace Hardware or go on Amazon, and they could order the lead testing kit. And then once if it does have an abnormal result at any certain fixture, I think the outside fixtures may differ from the inside fixtures, especially if you don't run your outside fixtures a lot, like in the winter time. They can contact the plumber and they can see what they can do about it.
Sure. Dean, city engineer.
Thank you, Mayor. As you probably know,
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Wait,
Kindly.
yesterday or the day before?
It was Monday.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, double nickels.
Good job.
As you probably know,
How'd you do the race the other day?
kicked my
I can only say that to like one other person.
I used to be fast.
By the way, I apologize to Northampton and Robertsdale. We tried to do our best about putting it out, but the Race to the Rescue is, the weekend of 9/11. I know it's during that 2-hour period, it's not easy to get around Northampton and Robertsdale area. So thank you. It's an honor to our first responders. It's a fun time. We had a lot of people come in and participate. So anyway.
As you know, I was a water utility engineer for about 16 years early in my career, and one of the issues was lead and copper that was rolled out through the EPA in the early.
What's that film called? I'm right about all that, right? I'm not.
Everything you said was spot on.
Okay.
Everything you talked about was right on. So
And the Flint River is
I believe it's a zinc orthophosphate.
That's what it is.
Zinc ortho or zinc polyphosphate, but it's probably orthophosphate.
Right.
But it's added to the water. But what residents really need to know.
When you're married, you learn a lot of useless trivia. I'm good at trivia pursuit.
Yeah, and as an engineer, we do too many things too. So the best thing you can do as a resident in your home, and this may sound a little bit self-serving to the water department, but is to flush the line, right? I mean, so when you take a lead sample, or when the water company is required to take lead samples, they collect the first flush. Because what happens with water is, as you know, it's naturally corrosive, so it wants to take metal from the plumbing into it. And if it sits for 6 hours or more, that's when you have the highest concentration, is anytime 6 hours or more. So if your water is sat for 6 hours, you want to turn the water tap on and flush it for, say, a minute. And I know
So
that's.
do you think that could be the culprit with the school city issue?
It's absolutely the problem, because it's right when you take the water from the fixtures where it's the
So if
highest.
they went in June and they haven't used the water in 3 weeks?
See, and you said that earlier, and everything you said hits home exactly. Flush the line out, if it's set for 6 hours, flush the line out for about a minute, and then we expect it to be water that comes from the main into the house, and that would be safe to drink.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Any other questions on this? All right, thank you. Let's go on to the next. Hey, I'm gonna take a commercial real quick. I want to introduce Councilwoman Janet Bernardes. Janet, could you come forward real quick? Hi, Councilwoman. As everybody knows, Janet is one of the city leaders when it comes to crime watches, and Janet has a presentation she wants to do.
You know, I didn't hear from you. I thought it.
I just saw it right here.
Okay, I kind of thought it was like my dad when he didn't answer me. It meant no.
No, I remembered it when I read this. So.
Okay.
Sorry.
If you would give me a minute, I'd
Sure.
be happy to go to my car.
No
and
problem. You do
okay.
that, and then we'll do a commercial after the next question.
Okay. Thank you.
Act like you didn't hear that. We're gonna edit it out so that you can watch it again later. So let's go ahead and do the next question, Donna.
Okay, Mayor, what's the latest scoop on the Hammond Sportsplex and Community Center? How will the neighborhood be able to utilize it?
Great question. It's funny. The entire staff of the Sportsplex is here, and they got asked a question. I wonder who wrote that one. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey, this is Jim Talon. He's the head of Hammond Sportsplex. Jim, why don't you introduce your staff that's with you, and then talk a little bit about the Sportsplex. I think I'm one of the only people in the city that hasn't been inside yet.
I think so too. Kimberly Roberts is here as well. She's the assistant general manager of basketball and volleyball. Beto, our assistant general manager of soccer, is out at a soccer tournament right now, and I think Chrissy's doing something as well. So, and I'm the general manager of the facility. So we're September 27th at 1 p.m. is going to be the ribbon cutting with the mayor. That'll be the official first opening. We got a few local things that are going on there. I think one of the biggest questions we get from the community is the walking track. There's a 1/4 mile walking track that is on the second level. That is going to be free to use for the public. So you can come in, there's no charge. We're going to put together some kind of a walking club because of so many people that are asking, and you'll be able to use that throughout the day as you want. All right, as we do events, leagues, things like that, it's going to be free to come in. We're not charging anybody to get in. The only other thing that will happen is some promoters will rent the facility from us. They rent the basketball side, they rent the soccer side. They can charge to come in, but that will not be the city doing that. Okay, I think those are the main questions we get. There is no membership. That is the other thing. There is no membership, so you can come in and use the facility and see the facility anytime you want. We welcome that.
What time is the ribbon cutting?
1 o'clock is the ribbon cutting on the 27th.
Thank you very much. So the Sportsplex was funded, about half of it was funded through a loan to the federal government that we've been accumulating for the better part of 13 or 14 years. We never spent any money out of this account, and because we waited so long, by the time we were ready to spend it, we had literally $10 million in that account, which is amazing. From the federal government, it's going to be paid with federal revenues over the next 10, 15 years. The other half was coming out of the TIF district. It's built right on the side of the former Woodmar Mall. I know one of the funny things about our city is if you live in North Hammond or Robertsdale, you have a tendency not to get too far south, and if you live in Woodmar or Hessville, you have a tendency not to get too far north. It's one of the funny, peculiar things about our city. If you get down towards Woodmar Mall area, take a look at what we're talking about. It's massive. It's on the basketball, volleyball side, it has 6 full indoor basketball courts, and it's also painted and striped for 12 full indoor volleyball courts. On the soccer side, it's got 2 full indoor soccer fields. This is built for tournaments and leagues. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we expect a heavy Hammond / Northwest Indiana presence. I know that there's leagues offered for 50 and over basketball, just for peculiar age groups like that. You know, co-ed team stuff. Give me an idea of like I'm almost a 50-year-old, you know, guy that can play a couple things. There's leagues just for 50-year-olds, right?
Right, 50 and over, soccer.
I'm gonna be like the
basketball.
first round draft pick when I'm 50. It's just
Mayor, we're the same age, so I'm pushing for 49 and over, and 50 and over, 51. We will
Let
be
me
the
know if you
youngest
do
in
that.
every
49 is a good number.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to have multiple different things. There's a soccer tennis tournament that we're putting on one of the Sundays that I've never even heard of before. It's playing soccer over a tennis net. So there will be multiple different events from youth to adults. We'll have open gyms. There will be multiple things going on.
so, but like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's mostly going to be.
Mostly going to be tournaments. The goal was to bring people in from out of town, so they stay in our hotels, they eat in our restaurants, and it's an economic impact for the city. And I know I've heard some things, people are worried about filling the facility. On the basketball side and soccer side, the basketball, once we open in mid-October, is booked all the way through mid-June. Every single weekend is booked. And we haven't opened the doors yet.
By the way, it's booked from October through mid-June, and we haven't even opened it yet. I mean, what we're doing in Hammond is unique in the entire Chicagoland area. I think there's one in Chicago that can compete with us. Is it Roman?
I had a person fly in from Massachusetts they do AAU basketball all throughout the East Coast, and they said this is the nicest facility they've seen. The only one better was in New York, Long Island, New York, of all the places they go to.
Right. Well, I know you have one big tournament you can't talk about yet.
We can't. We have a
and
national.
if you let me know, I'm going to blab it, so you probably should.
We have a national exposure event that's a shoe company. So one of the major shoe brands is going to put on an event where it's going to be for women's, girls basketball, high school, and we'll have the Division I basketball coaches will be coming in May to watch the best girls basketball players from all over the country.
So D1 women's basketball coaches will be coming in.
Will be coming in. That'll be May 18th, and then Under Armour actually came through and walked the facility today, and we're trying to negotiate. Under Armour saw the facility, is thinking about doing an event in Indianapolis at the Field House, and I think we're going to try and steal that event from them.
See, one of the things that we found interesting, we know we're onto something when we've had a couple companies approach us already and say, hey, we want to call it the Name Your Company Arena. And I want the word Hammond to be in there. So if Under Armour wants it to be Under Armour Arena, it's got to be Hammond's Under Armour Arena. I promise you, Hammond's got to be in there. But it's pretty ridiculous, the amount of money that people offer you just to put their name on it. I mean, I'm devoted to the city of Hammond, but when they started throwing that kind of money out there, I was like, holy cow, like, I had no idea it was so lucrative to put Under Armour or something like that on the name of your building. So Horseshoe Arena sounds so good, doesn't it? All right, so anyway, thanks, Jim. So the Sportsplex is exciting. It looks like it's done. Anybody have any questions or follow-ups about the Sportsplex? Yeah, George.
In your absence, while you were in Europe, there was some discussion on your radio program about hotels.
Yeah.
And how you were somebody from the city, had to somehow break down some walls and miscommunication, lack of communication with Spiro, and there was some discussion, debate about where would be the most optimal place to have a hotel.
Yes.
And
So you're talking convention center, right?
yeah, well, I thought they were talking about hotels as well as convention center. And what I'm getting at is, do you believe that having a big hotel is a possibility, or is it viable here off of, I guess, 8094?
Yeah. So I think it's having a hotel where Parsons Prairie Scott, I don't think that's a stretch at all. And that's just me. Nobody's offered us money yet, but I tell you, people keep saying, what are you going to do with Parsons Prairie Scott, Mayor? And I'm like, well, I mean, turn it into a hotel would be great, but sometimes it's more expensive. Thank you, Representative. Sometimes it's more expensive to retrofit an old building. Like when we were doing the City Hall analysis, we really wanted, for sentimental reasons, to put it in the Ben Calumet building. And then when we started looking at the numbers, it's like, we could build a brand new building for what it's going to cost us to build into this older building. So for the same reason, it's probably cheaper for a hotel if they want to build right next to the Sportsplex to demolish Parsons Prairie and start brand new again. So sometimes I realize people are sentimental about old buildings, and I know people have a soft spot for Parsons Prairie. I do too, although I don't shop, my wife does, but I understand it. But I have a feeling, unless somebody blows our socks off with an idea about the Parsons building, the best thing we can do is get that on the ground and just wait for people. They're going to want to be there. we're sold out through June. So, anyway, Jim, great job, good work. I'm very happy to report Ann Anderson got real scissors for our ribbon cutting. I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you. The budget cut is over, I guess. For 15 years, we used these big clunky plastic scissors that didn't cut anything. We got the real things for this ribbon cutting. So, thank you very much. So, does anybody have any questions about the sportsplex? All right, let's move on.
Mayor, do you have an update on the old Walmart and or the old Pizza Hut in Woodmont?
Yeah, good question. I know Ann was talking to me the other day. She can't get too specific about the plans for the old Walmart on 165th. I know you can probably be general.
I can. We're actually meeting with the developer next week on Wednesday. He's got updates for us.
A well-known developer.
A well-known developer, region developer. He said he's about 90% there, and he's very excited. So,
When we heard this person bought the old Walmart, we were super happy because this person is known to get things done and usually makes quite a bit of money for himself, and then has a tendency to sell it and go on to the next thing. And this is his next thing, and I think he sees the opportunity and he wants to sell it, make some money, and move on to the next thing after that. But I'm excited. I think that he's the kind of guy that's going to get it done. So, but anyway, the old Pizza Hut across the street. I know Phil. I know, and Africa's got. In Africa, do you want to talk about the limitation on the old Pizza Hut? I didn't mean to skip you.
Oh, no, that's not a problem at all, Mayor. One of the limitations that they have on that building is that because the food was owned by, there are certain types of food service that they cannot have there. So that's been somewhat of a limitation because I believe they can't have chicken there. And they can't have some other things because the building was owned by Yum Brands. So there's
like burgers, because Yum is Burger King and all that, right?
It's
Pizza Hut, Burger King.
Pizza Hut, it's Pizza Hut and
Taco
Bell, and there's another chain as well.
So basically, if you sell anything that Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, or Burger King sells,
you cannot serve over a certain percentage. So that really limits the type of business that you have there.
I mean,
salad.
You got salad shop anybody? Soup? You can do that. Soup?
But with the opening of the sports complex, we know that there's been a lot of attention given to that specific property, so we're really looking for something positive to happen at that location.
Maybe we can get Wally to open Cavalier Part 2 down there. That'd be a way to start it. Polish food restaurant right across the street. So.
That would be nice.
I tell you, it's a gold mine. If you can figure out a way around those restrictions, that old Pizza Hut, dang. But you can't sell burgers, can't sell Mexican food, can't sell pizza. So let's get a hold of Wally. I think that's the answer. All right, any other questions about that? All right, let's bounce.
Mayor, can you give a status on the Holman Avenue project? Will the other side of Holman be torn up? Is there a timeline?
Good. Bring in City Engineer Dean Button to talk about this project.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
We
Mayor.
start singing or something?
Yeah, so we do intend on completing the Holman Avenue project this season, so you should expect to see it completed. The delay related to some additional work that we found after we removed the surface course of the asphalt, and we developed quite a few water service line leaks. So we had to drop back and get prices from different contractors to avoid any issues relative to the State Board of Accounts. So that took us some time, and we're back in progress. My understanding is that we're going to pave the west side of the street the 17th and 18th of September. About a week after that, we will transfer traffic to the west side of the street and make that one-way southbound, and then work on the east side of the street, and we expect to be completed by the end of October. So we're on track. Yeah, we're sorry for the delay.
There's no way that's going to extend into next year, right?
Well, we don't expect that to happen. So if worst comes to worst, we'll put asphalt down, we'll put surface in the spring, but we really have to get this project done this year, surface course and everything. So please expect that to happen by the end of the year. And thank you for your patience. I realize that this has been a really long, drawn-out process, but we have a process we have to follow to to stay straight with the State Board of Accounts, and that's really why they're so long. So
Thanks, Steve. All right, let's go ahead and do our commercial. I see Councilwoman's back in here. I'm sorry about that, Councilwoman.
Oh, that's okay.
I forgot about it, and then I came in here and I saw the notes, so I just said, oh, I forgot all about that. So this is Councilwoman Al-Large Janet Menez, who is the council president also, and in her spare time, she is also the head of Citywide Crime House. So give her a warm welcome. Thank you.
Do attend all of the meetings, so. Hi, everybody. Many of you know that each year, the first Tuesday in August, all of the Crime Watch groups get together in Hammond, and we observe National Night Out up at the Wolf Lake Splash Pad. It's turned into a really good family event, and our residents can not only win some prizes, but they get a lot of information about how they can protect themselves from becoming a victim of a crime. Well, this year we decided that what we wanted to do was acknowledge those who come out and help us when we are a victim of a crime or a victim of a fire. So we had these posters posted with little hands for everybody who was in attendance at National Night Out to sign their name on the little hand to say, thank you, Hammond firefighters, and thank you, Hammond police officers. So we want to I always say that the men and women of our police and fire departments are there to protect us and allow us to sleep at night knowing that they are there to protect us. So this is our way of saying thank you to all of you. Where's Jeff? There we go. And all of you. And many of you may have seen on the news that the police department took this little girl, I think it was to Indianapolis, is that what it was? Her name is on here. Hold on, this is fire. It's right over here. Sammy, she signed it. So that is an autograph thank you from Sammy and all of us who were at National Night Out. And thank you all for the job that you do to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks, Janet. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the next question. From what I understand, we have about 10 questions left.
Yes, sir.
And 2 general questions and 8 police related.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we, Chief, why don't you grab the microphone? We'll go through the police related first, okay? There's a lot of times on deck.
We've got 2 complaints, Chief. 1425 Amy Court, constant cars, people think it's a drug house, please advise.
Okay. These are the ones I want to point out also, you could do in Hammond 311. They have ways that you could go through there and do anonymous tips. Okay, and obviously we're not in the business of exposing who does anonymous tips, but you get a lot of tips that way, Chief?
We do, for everything. Reciprocity violations come in a lot. Community affairs checks that every morning, much like Public Works does, and then that's handed out through our email system, so it is handled that day.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for the address. I don't know if our guys are looking at it already or not, but we'll get them on it right away.
So you're going to forward these particular addresses to the chief, obviously?
Absolutely, sir. Also along with 13 Lake Avenue.
Okay.
That seems to be a problem here as well.
Okay. Is there any questions, or is it mostly just addresses? Yes, sir. Do you have a follow-up on that?
Yes, please.
Thanks. Sorry about that. If you have a follow-up, please raise your hand like the gentleman just did. Hi.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I'm here as a resident of Amy Court, along with 9 of our neighbors, representing 5 of probably the 10 homes on the court. Now, the police have been responding periodically to calls about that house on Amy Court. But I don't understand why they can't shut down the operation if they're responding to calls about what's going on there. We've got doped up people walking into our yards, people on their cell phones looking at an address and then looking at houses, walking down and then going into the house. This is what the 9 of us, if you want, everyone wants to stand up, of the group here, you know, we just want to know, obviously they know that there are people that are wearing ankle bracelets. It's a quiet little residential area, and we're very disturbed about what's going on.
Gotcha. I want to be copied on that one with Amy Court also, okay? We'll pay attention right away, okay? I appreciate you guys all being here.
Yeah, we'll get on it. I'll check and see what the guys are already doing. Sometimes it can be a slow process to work up and get into a house. I'm glad you are seeing some police presence over there. We're aware. And you are a small, isolated neighborhood over there. And it's good to see you have that many eyes on the problem, and we'll be on it, I promise.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, and we're going to follow it up tomorrow. And I appreciate you guys being here. Does anybody else want to say anything about the situation with Amy Court? Okay, I appreciate you guys. I want to be copied onto that one also, so we can find out what's going on. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys for being here. All right, let's go ahead and do the next one.
Too many people racing down the street, 4,000 block of camera on, Lincoln School, before and after school, every day.
Okay, we'll follow up with that with our traffic division. We have a lot of grants going on right now, federal grants that are specifically targeting just that. So we can add that on the list where to send our guys, and hopefully it'll be some good fishing there.
Is there anything you can do about business vehicles parking on residential streets?
Not unless they're overweight. Just because it belongs to a business doesn't mean that a person can't bring their work vehicle home with them. If it's a truck that's over a weight class for that neighborhood or
like
that semi that doesn't belong, or something too wide, then no. Just because it has a business logo on it, it has a right to park.
So like somebody's work van, like A1 Electric or something like that, that's not illegal, parked out front of the zone.
Correct, and because it's registered to a business, the reciprocity does not apply.
Gotcha.
If they plate all of their fleet out of Illinois, and this person happens to work in Illinois and gets to bring his vehicle home, and it's a pickup truck, has an Illinois plate on it, but it's clearly registered to a company, then that belongs to that company, not the homeowner, so would not apply for reciprocity.
Okay. Next.
This is not the first district, but it is the 5th, I believe. Knickerbocker Apartments, 169 in Alcott. 32 units, no parking for the building, and people that live in the building are using up the residential parking.
True story. Absolutely true story.
Okay, we have 3 members of Community Affairs here, so.
That building it's an old building.
It is.
Like, we have a lot of buildings that don't make sense. I know we have a couple in Robertstown also where we go through a quiet neighborhood and all of a sudden we have like a whole big apartment building. I mean, that's one of those situations, probably built in the 50s. They just put a big apartment building and then they built a neighborhood around it. There's no parking there.
Nothing in the back.
Nothing in the back. It's like a little,
just a little street.
yeah, and they park around there.
Yeah, we would agree with you, there's no parking there. There's nothing, obviously, the police department can do about making a parking lot there. We can enforce the residential parking, however, and I believe the actual question says something about reciprocity. We can check on that. However, we do need to be cautious about reciprocity because of the college. If students are there and they're attending college, they're not subject to reciprocity. They're not citizens of Hammond or necessarily residents of our state, and are not required to be while they're attending college. I had that experience myself being in the military. I stayed in Arlington, Virginia for 18 months. I kept my plates from Indiana. I kept my license from Indiana. That's where I paid my taxes. I went home to vote. We don't take those rights away from people that are visiting us and spending a lot of money in tuition to be here and support our local businesses. So if you see some of those plates, they may be there legally even though they're out of state. But we will check on them and see who's not here legally.
Okay.
On the weekend evenings, when Aldi and Planet Fitness are close, the parking lot there is filled with cars and motorcycles, a lot of young people, both in and out of their vehicles. Are the police aware of this? What is going on? Is this an officially sanctioned gathering place?
Not by the city, no. We've had contact, the city's had contact, and the police department has had a lot of direct contact with the owners of that property. Recently, they put up signage. We had some towing issues there that have been resolved. A lot going on there. I haven't got any very recent complaints from there myself. So please call while it's going on. We'll respond.
What time is Planet Fitness closed, Jack? I know you go there. Not because he's used, I know for a fact he does that, right? He does go there all the time.
That's a negative. I go to Omni.
You stop going to Planet Fitness?
No.
Alright.
Too many doink doinks. They kicked me out of there.
Really? Nice. Nice.
But I believe they close at 7 o'clock on a Friday.
Really?
Yes.
I always thought it stayed up a little late.
There is a lot of cars out there and show and tell.
Right.
Yeah, we'll monitor that. We did have a very large racing group out of Illinois come in there for a while, and we had to address that issue. Noise, they were leaving garbage behind. We did address them specifically and corrected that problem. However, these problems do have a tendency of resurfacing from time to time. So thank you for advising us of that. And again, community affairs can start, and I'll send it out to the rest of the guys tomorrow.
Okay.
Mayor, if you don't mind.
And when we get done with these specific questions, I'll do a wrap up of, general crime questions if we have a few more, since we're on the topic.
Okay, Kathy Welch is here from the Hammond Police and Citizens Advisory Commission. If you don't mind, she'd like to say a few words to the audience. Kathy, where are you?
Hi, Kathy. How you doing?
Hello, good, how are you?
Good.
Hello, everyone. I spoke here about a year ago at the Lincoln School meeting, so I'm sorry if this is a rerun for you, but I came here to tell you, I'm a little nervous speaking in front of people because I might forget something really important. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna read what I wrote. Okay, I came here to tell you about a group that exists that you may or may not have heard of. It is the Hammond Police and Citizens Advisory Commission. The Hammond Police Department wants to have a good relationship with you, the community. Our mission is to open up communications and improve the relationship between the police department and you. We believe that mostly everyone here must care about the city because you took the time to come here tonight. We are a commission comprised of volunteers. Sitting at my table, Bonnie, Penny, go ahead, stand up, Stacy, and Bev is absent tonight, and myself, Kathy. We represent you, Police District Number 1, which includes Robertsdale, most of North Hammond. We are here to be your voice. So we'd love for you to help us build and improve this relationship by communicating to us. We'd like to hear your thoughts and concerns, good, bad, or indifferent, and ideas to help us achieve our goal. There are a few ways you can do this. You can either send us email, and there's a flyer on the table on your way out, or call any one of us, and all of our numbers are on there and our email address. If you want something to be confidential, we promise it will stay that way. Between the 5 of us on our commission, we've owned businesses, worked in customer service, medical offices, political environments, and human resources and executive departments in multi-billion-dollar corporations. All of these jobs have required the utmost confidentiality in different ways, so we rest assured we will treat you with the same respect if you request our confidentiality. So please help us by taking time to send us an email or give us a call with your input. Please take a flyer from the table in the back, and we will be here after the meeting if you'd like to speak with us and have any questions as well. I'll end with one of my favorite tips from Mahatma Gandhi. If you want to see the change, be the change. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you for serving. Please sign the committee. All right, did we wrap up all the written crime questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Chief.
Yes.
I know we don't like to talk generally, but I know we're having a pretty good year so far. I know any amount of crime is too much crime, and I know you're not supposed to talk about this stuff, okay? But I know we're doing pretty well so far this year. Is there anything you guys are doing different? I mean,
We've done a lot of things different the last few years. A lot of this, I do have to give credit to the mayor and his staff for supporting us with the ideas we've come to him with. And we started a contact protocol system 4 years ago when I took over as chief. It's very successful. It's not a system where people have to write tickets that cost people money. When officers come to work, they have to go out and make contact, some sort of contact, and it can be checking on someone in an alley, doing a field interview card. It can be giving them a warning for speeding. It can be getting out and talking to kids on the sidewalk. We have a community policing component of that as well, where we just come up and talk to you while you're outside maybe mowing your grass. Introduce ourselves and say, I'm working your neighborhood, I'm your officer. All these things have helped, especially with our burglaries, because it gets the officers engaged. They're required to have a minimum number of contacts every 4 days they work, and they have to be productive. They're out there engaging the community, looking for bad guys, sorting out the good guys from the bad guys, and introducing themselves to you.
I imagine sometimes these contacts do result in arrests though, right? I mean, if you have a contact protocol and you pull somebody over and they have a, unlicensed gun or something on them, right? Of course you have to be a police officer in a situation like that.
Absolutely. So the more traffic stops my guys are making, last year we wrote 51,000 tickets in the city of Hammond. I will tell you that over 50% of those were warnings. That means 50% of the time an officer walked up to a car, and most of the time it was a Hammond resident, unless they're working a grant where they're compelled to write the ticket. They were giving you a warning, having a conversation, and walking away from the car, everybody happy. During a lot of those encounters, we were finding out that there were things going on in the car that shouldn't be. People on the way to Amy Court perhaps to buy drugs, or perhaps they had a suspended license and let us look in the car and recover a gun. These are the types of things we want the officers doing. If they're not stopping cars and they're not talking to people in alleys, we're not going to stop crime before it happens. That was the design of this program, and it's working. To move on, if the mayor would like to talk about LPR. Okay, we approached the mayor, and we're 1 year out of infancy in that. About 50% of the city is covered by license recognition software. It's also capable of facial recognition software. This last 4 days, 3 stolen vehicles drove into the city of Hammond. All 3 vehicles were chased and stopped, and arrests were made.
Let's say I got into a car and I wanted to hide from the police department, okay? And you knew my license plate number. And I drove around the city of Hammond. How long would it take for you guys to find me?
Almost instantly. Our guys are so good at...
If they knew the license plate and the make and model, they could find me almost instantly.
I have it on my phone. My LPR system is on my phone. My guys are just pulling over. I'll give you an example. I made a traffic stop, and I plugged the license plate in my computer before I walked up to it. And it was just a routine traffic light. My camera in my car caught the infraction before I wrote the ticket, so that can't be debated. As I'm walking up and talking to the guy abruptly pulls away and almost runs me over. I'd already given the plate to dispatch, so I had dispatch run it. My guys responding heard it. One of my K-9 units pulls over, looks it up in the LPR system, which we all have access into our cars. He pulls the plate up immediately, finds an address on Becker Street. So he goes to Becker Street. We were able to track the car back on the LPR system when he came into the town right before I stopped him, and we were able to track him leaving town immediately after I stopped him. The next day, we stayed on Becker Street. He pulls up over there and he's arrested. So that's how the system works. Also, tow truck drivers drive around town.
This is incredible.
This is incredible. All night long, in every community, not just Hammond, looking for repossessed vehicles, that a bank is authorized. They have no access to information like, is a vehicle stolen? Is the driver wanted? We do. If you drive by one of our cars that has these special cameras on it, and you have a warrant out for your arrest, it will tell the officer inside the car that there's a warrant out for your arrest. So these cars drive around our town all night, and these repo guys get paid to take these cars back to the bank. That information is available to us. So as the mayor stated, let's say I'm told to look for the mayor's Yukon because it's
I drove by a repo driver.
Yeah, so good chances are, parked anywhere in Hammond, not only will I know where the vehicle spent the night, I'll have a history of it. I can go back as far as I want.
That's right, I forgot about that. Has a tendency to be here, right?
Yes, the very first day we started the LPR system, we signed a contract. Griffith had an armed robbery. It was last seen on Klein Avenue coming toward Hammond. They had heard about our system. They gave us a call. My gang unit ran the plate in our LPR system. We didn't even have cameras up yet. A tow truck driver had put it down in an address on Jarnicki, and he drove over there. It was sitting out front, and the armed robbery suspect had just walked in the house, and we made the arrest. Thanks.
So when we talk about we're doing a good job this year, and I want to say thank you to the council and to the police department, for the police department for bringing it to our attention, this amazing system, and to the council, who I approached with this idea, and they sat through the same presentation I did, and they authorized about $1 million at this point to spend on this system. When the next phase is done, every entrance and exit into the city of Hammond is going to be covered by an LPR camera. Because there's ways, if you're smart, you know your way in and out of the city where you don't have to pass under a camera. We're finding those entrances and exits as well. And we just want everybody to know. I want the bad guys to know, especially. Don't do it here, you'll get caught. And I hope when you look at our stats and you see a general downward trend this year, I hope that's what it is. Because if that's the case, it's going to keep going that way. And that's what we need. And I know it's heavy-handed. My wife's all about Big Brother. She hates Big Brother stuff. But this is a direct slap against the criminals. This is how we protect ourselves and protect our neighborhood. And I go across these cameras all day long, every single day of my life. And I'm not worried about the police department knowing that I crossed Indianapolis Boulevard over into Munster. I don't care, because I'm not doing anything wrong. But these bad guys, if they have warrants, if they commit a crime and you get a license plate, we'll get them. Remember North Hammond, about a year ago when school started, we got those kids and they jumped into a car and they took off? We could have got them if we had the cameras up. I remember that one. Remember the picture of the kids running down the street with the guns? We were waiting to get the cameras up then. And I'm not going to get mad at NIPSCO, because I'm not going to get mad at NIPSCO, but I was like, dang, if these cameras were up, we knew where they went. They went to 5 Points and they went right over to Illinois. We would have got them. But the cameras weren't up yet. And then I called NIPSCO and I was like, so, and they put the cameras up right after that. And ever since they've been up, these guys have been making arrests and amazed people. Like, wow, how'd you get them? And she's like, oh,
It's gotten some routine for us. We don't almost talk about it. Like, I don't call the mayor and say, hey, we got 3 cars this week. And it just happened over the last few days. Phase 2 is underway. Polls are going up. Electricity's being run. The project is funded. Probably we hope by the end of this year, we're going to be fully up and running, like the mayor said, to have the whole city buttoned up. And as far as Big Brother goes, the officers, there is no sense of privacy for your license plate already. If you commit an infraction, we run your plate. You buy the plate from the state, you put it on your car. That's all the system does, is capture your license plate. We're not looking for you.
They don't look in houses or nothing like that.
The computer looks things up. The computer looks for a bad guy or something wrong with the car or a bad guy in the car attached to that plate. The officer's not doing that himself. There's no profiling. He's not looking at you and say, I think you're a bad guy. He's just waiting for the computer to go beep. That's all it is.
What is it? Does it beep a lot?
It does beep a lot.
And those beeps are bad guys, and we can get them. And they're more amazed than anybody when we get them.
And we have filters. So a traffic officer who wants to write tickets for suspended license, he'll have that filter on. You know, a gang officer who doesn't want to stop cars all day but is looking for gang activity, there's a tab for that. He's looking for people who are committed in gang offenses, or they're listed as gang members already, or the car is stolen, the more serious offenses. So each officer can tailor-make the filter to suit their needs depending on the job they're doing out there that day in patrol.
George.
Have there been any computer errors? Wrong guy, wrong car, anything like
We've had none, and there's a lot of impetus on us. If a car goes by and says the registered driver of the car, because that's who it'll be on, is wanted on a warrant, and he's a 6'2", 300-pound white male, and there's a 100-pound female driving the car, we don't stop the car.
You wouldn't even stop it.
We wouldn't even stop it.
If it's obvious.
That's happened many times.
Yeah, people use each other's cars.
It's common sense, there's no invasion of privacy, that's obviously not who we're looking for, that's not our target, we just ignore it.
Thanks, George. You know, another thing, our Hammond PD is probably the most technological PD in the state. They all have body cams also. And I tell you, one of the nice things about the body cams is the number of complaints against the officers has gone down significantly since we gotten them. A lot of times somebody will approach us and say, you know, Chief, I got arrested by one of your officers, and he was totally unprofessional with me. He used words against me that made me feel uncomfortable, and I just think it was totally unprofessional. And back in the old days, we'd take a complaint, it'd be my word against the officers, and the officer would have this open allegation, maybe use wrong words, or it was rough in an arrest. Now with these body cams, what have you seen?
Normally, we were always a pretty good department, but I would tell you it was in the dozens before. That's another thing we've had about 4 years now. And I asked our internal affairs guys on vacation out, I happened to ask them right before we left how many we've had. 3. We have 211 officers.
3 this year?
3 this year. We have 100,000 calls for service a year. That's 100,000 times you call us to help you. Plus the stuff we generate ourselves, plus the traffic citations we write, things we do on our own. And we've had 3 people walk in and make complaints against children's cars.
And a lot of times, when they come in and they realize that the officer had a body cam and they could see how they acted towards the officer, a lot of times they just say, okay, it's all good. Sorry about that, right, Chief?
I had a chief of police, I won't say from where, send me an email and said that one of my officers wronged him the other day. I pulled up the video this morning, his body cam. The officer was professional, did his job, even arrested the bad guy that was attached. The wife wasn't a bad guy, but she was complaining that we didn't do anything. He went and arrested the bad guy right afterward. It was in reference to a traffic accident, a hit and run. She was at fault for the accident. I looked at it. I decided not to. I called him and I said, I put it in the mail today. After you watch it, if you want to call me back, call me back. He won't call me back.
And I'm not a police officer. I rely on the experts. And my expert is the chief of police. And he's the one that told me these are the directions we need to head. And we've headed those directions. And I tell you, we're an island here. We got Chicago to our west. We got Gary, and Gary's got a lot of problems to our east. And we're not Mayberry, but I tell you, the Hammond Police Department's been doing a good job for us, and we're having a good year. And I just want to say thanks. And I know we're going to follow up on each and every one of these issues. Amy Court, I appreciate you guys being here, and we're going to follow it up. I promise you. But I'm very encouraged by where we're heading. I think we're heading in the right direction, and I'm not ever going to be satisfied as long as one of us has a crime that happens in our home or to our family. I'll never be satisfied, but I think we're heading in the right direction. So, and I hope you guys know that we will follow this up. So, thank you guys. Does anybody else have any questions about crime? I know we still have 2 more questions up on it.
3, sir.
Okay. So, let's go ahead and start. We'll go ahead and close this topic out, and we'll go ahead and knock out the last 3.
Okay, can you give us an update on what's happening on Roosevelt Drive? Surveyors have been out and the street is all marked up.
All right, please, Dean. Roosevelt Drive.
Wow, it's off the top of my head.
Named after Teddy or FDR?
I'm sorry, yeah, I got that. So we have several projects that are currently under design for construction for next year. So that's what you've seen out there now. So Roosevelt between Blossom and Hollywood, Maiden Lane from Blossom to Heyman, Roosevelt to Warwick, and Burton from Roosevelt to Warwick. So you'll see surveyors, one of our consultant engineers in the 1st District, Jan Grockhawk, is here tonight. So she's helping us, and her firm's helping us with getting design work done for 2019 road work. So thank you for that.
Cool, thank you. Appreciate it.
What kind of projects?
These are, I believe, lighting and sidewalk and trees.
What about the street and sewers? What about our street and sewers? We desperately need them.
Yeah. So
my sidewalk in front of my house, because all you do is put asphalt on top of asphalt, my sidewalk in front of my house is a swimming pool or a lake every time it rains.
Yeah, so we're replacing the sidewalks and they'll be raised to grade so that you won't have that problem anymore.
No curbs? No curbs?
I don't think we're anticipating curbs in that location, no, because we have to, so basically when you put a curb in, man, you have to drop the street about a foot. And, you know, otherwise if we just build the curbs up where they are, the water will flow back into your property, so we'd have to be concerned about that. And as you know, there's pretty shallow groundwater up there, so we run the risk of creating more problems, if we do that. So that's basically why we have to sheet drain the roadway off that way.
Please. And what about our sewers? How old are those sewers that we have?
We checked with sanitary district on that, and we believe that the sewers are in good condition, so they don't. The mainline sewers themselves we believe are in good condition, man.
Jack, have you been out there lately? Jackson, the sewage department, they televise our sewer lines, so.
I'm sure that we do have that on video, so all I have to do is I'll get the streets and I'll pull that up.
How often do you have to televise our sewage system?
If I know there's a problem,
Yeah.
and we address that right away.
We got one by City Hall, by the way. Right on Lions, right just west of City Hall. So it's a dip in the road.
One on Summer and one on Columbia.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for the question, man. Yes, sir.
This is a street-related question also. 126, 127th Street, Birch Avenue, we're supposed to get repaving this summer. Is that project still on, or is that going to be postponed till next year?
Yes, sir. We do have Birch planned to overlay this year, and there's curb and some stormwater drainage. A storm structure that we plan, I think actually 3 storm structures that are going in on Birch to deal with the surface drainage. We do still expect to get that road work done this year.
Okay. Questions? Donna?
What are you doing about the high incidence of breast cancer among women living in North Hammond? Thank you.
I've known a few people that live in North Hammond and got really aggressive forms of cancer. I have never heard any linkage, but I mean, it makes you wonder, because we all know people that get these aggressive forms of cancer and pass away, but I've never heard of any analysis or any worries to our community. Mark, do you know anything about that? Ron? Yeah.
This question came up previously, and I checked with the State Board of Health, ATSDR, which is the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, and there's a registry out there that takes in all cancers and all types of diseases, and they basically would perform a epidemiological study. I've seen no information indicating that there's a cluster or an issue in that area. If someone has names, addresses, and contact information, I have the contact person for the ATSDR, and I can pass that information along to them. But the agencies don't see at this particular point a problem up in that area. So if you have additional information, provide it to me, I'll pass it along.
Hey, Ron, since you're talking, I know you've been really following the Federated Metal situation. You and I were talking the other day about the properties that have been dug out, and the EPA's paid for the soil cleanup. Could you go through basically what you told me in staff meeting the other day, if you don't mind?
Sure. The update on that is the US EPA is essentially going at Tier 1 properties. Those are ones that have parts per million in excess of 1,200 and a sensitive population, which would be children and or a pregnant lady. There's 24 of those properties. Thus far, they've already cleaned up 12. They go down 2 feet, they save whatever vegetation they can, like trees, and they basically put back fill material and essentially sod back in the properties. They're looking to complete all of those 24 properties by the end of the year, and hopefully there'll be additional monies available for the properties that don't have sensitive populations that are below the 1,200 parts per million. But this is a major undertaking, But for those properties that were cleaned up, the US EPA provides them with a letter that indicates their property has been cleaned, so that if they go to sell their property, they at least have assurances that there's no longer a lead issue there.
And they're basically brand new yards once they're done, right?
That's correct.
What is it, top foot and a half, if I remember correctly?
Say again?
The top foot and a half they take out, 2 feet?
Yeah, right in that area.
Yeah, so, if you live in one of those properties, then what is it, 30 properties in our city that are affected?
The whole area is essentially bounded by 119th on the north, bike trail on the south, Atchison Avenue, and over to White Oak. Thus far, they've tested and got data on over 200 properties in that area. You'll find that most of the high readings are adjacent to the plant along Lakeview, along Indianapolis Boulevard, so they've targeted those first. But the ones that are remaining out there is really gonna be becoming a funding issue to get the other ones that are essentially above 400 parts per million.
So basically, if you're one of the homeowners and you're sitting in this room today, if the EPA is offering to do this, you highly recommend they follow through with it.
Can't pass that up, especially if you have children and or a sensitive population there.
But even for the market value of your home, right?
Right.
So like, I want to sell my home 10 years from now, you don't want them to have a question whether or not there's that contamination.
That's a millstone around someone's neck that
So-
is being taken care of here.
But you were fairly impressed, and to talk about the EPA and say the words fairly impressed is not easy to do.
I mean, they were meticulous in regards to utility lines that were going to garages from the home, trees that people wanted saved there, going down 2 feet, bringing in clean fill, and I just thought it was really a stellar job that they were doing on the properties.
Good.
And if you had crabgrass growing in your front yard, you now have sod.
It's true. So get it done. George?
This is from Councilman Mark, or Don. Has there been any progress or any sort of development with respect to that property, contaminated property off of Sheffield, that you were dealing with, that I think was the EPA and the Indiana Environmental, you know what I'm talking about, that? Yeah.
Are you talking about Mickey's?
I don't know.
This is at Chicago and Sheffield.
Yeah.
The water line there has been fixed. There was a significant amount of sampling done, and the water line was really a concern. And it's not a concern about the contamination from the site getting into the water. The line's under pressure, water's coming out. So there was never an issue with Hammond water. It was basically coming out, flowing out, and going on to adjacent property owners. So that has been fixed. A significant amount of contamination that was around the water line has been removed. The next step is now, I have a meeting tomorrow concerning the remainder of the site. That was formerly a tow yard that turned into a car reclamation, salvage, crushing operation. Oil, grease, PCBs from automobile components and other materials are on that soil. We are now looking at cleaning up that particular site. All the contamination plus 6 inches. So that's the next step out there.
Thanks, man. We're gonna, George, I want to get to the final question if you don't mind. Don, let's go ahead and knock out the final question.
Really just a statement, Mayor. We think the new pedestrian bridge over Calumet looks fabulous. The Wolf's Lake Park and Pavilion project is very well done and a real asset to Hammond.
I mean, it was either that or the Statue of Liberty, so I think we made the right decision.
Guy loses a lot of his hair.
Yeah,
right?
Violet, how you doing?
Good, Mayor.
Why don't you do a little commercial from the Hammond Port Authority?
Very quickly, I know everybody's been sitting and been very patient. The Wolf Lake Memorial Park enhancement, expansion, and connectivity project is 95% done. There was a challenge that you had given the Port Authority a year ago, and basically said it will be done by
That's
Festival of the Lakes.
It was done.
Pretty darn close.
It was
So
nice.
we're-
It's
we're
super
close.
nice.
Thank you.
To everybody that sees it raves about it. And I think we caught everybody off guard with the big billboard.
The sign.
It looked good.
It announces that you're here.
It is. I went by it the other day and there was like a 50-foot picture of my face on there. It was really freaky.
Announcing that you're gonna be here today.
Very
you
good.
go.
It's super nice.
Yeah.
I tell you, the Port Authority quarterbacked that project. They did just a great job. Mylan, a lot of the gray hair you see came with this last year. So congratulations, Mylan. You did a great job out there.
And really, also the water department too,
Yeah.
teaming up with the water department to get the.
By the way,
line set.
that water department was an obstacle that took us months to get by because that bridge goes over the top of one of our main links between the filtration plant and the city of Hammond. So it's literally like the artery of our entire water system. We had to figure out how to not jeopardize that line and still get over the top of it. That was a big challenge. So
2 concerts left, right, Mayor?
yeah.
The 21st?
That's Gucci Mane and TA, which this is the one that your kids and grandkids will be interested in, okay? Gucci Mane played Lollapalooza in front of over 50,000 people about a month ago. And he's playing Hammond, Indiana, hopefully in front of 50,000 people in just a couple weeks. So that would be outstanding, by the way.
And
But the next day isn't for the kids, it's for you. Steve Miller Band is playing right down there, which is amazing. Steve Miller Band's a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. Tickets are on sale now, they're going very well. WolfLakePavilion.com.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going very well. They're good, 3 different price points. You know, if we're successful and we keep bringing these big bands in like this could be the kind of thing you see on a regular, this could be like a Ravinia. I mean, and you look at the lineup of bands that play at Ravinia, you'll see like Sheryl Crow play out there, you'll see Steely Dan play out there, you'll see, like, we need to get there, and I think we're starting to take baby steps in that direction. So I want to thank the Port Authority for taking the lead on those 2 shows. And Robertsdale is doing very well. Just last month, we announced probably the biggest economic development project in Hammond in a very long time. A $40 million data center that's going on in the location of the former state line generator. That project could easily grow into a $100 million project in a very short time. So we got a lot of good things happening. I know we got a lot of work to do. And if I'm ever satisfied up here and telling you everything's great, that's time to get rid of me, okay? Because I'm always going to have work. This job is perfect for somebody with ADD because you always have way more things than you could possibly do in one day. And I'm always working for you. And I hear what you're saying, okay? I have some work to do, and especially in Indy Court. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank Councilman Mark for hosting this event. I want to mostly thank you all, the Go Hammond TV audience. I don't get to say you all very often. I busted that out, but I want to thank you all for showing up. Thank Go Hammond TV for watching, and of course all the department heads that show up and answer your questions for 2.5 hours on a Wednesday night. Thank you. Next Mayor's Night Out is going to be Thursday, October 11th. It's Mayor After Dark. Location to be determined. That's on the internet. Mayor's Night Out next is in the 6th District, Scott Middle School on October 17th. 6:30 p.m. By the way, there are job openings in the city we want to post right now. If you're a CDL driver or no CDL driver, please see Sharon Daniels. We could get you in pretty quick order if you're a CDL driver and looking for a job. We have those openings constantly, and labor spots. We have some labor spots open. Right.
And then sports parks.
Sports parks? Yeah. I imagine sports parks are going to be hiring once we realize how busy they're going to be. But anyway, thank you, North Hammond, Robertsdale, all the city residents who are here. I'll see you next Thursday night.